Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at the Catwalk. We're about to get started with our sustainability fashion panel. Please welcome Gloria, Rachel, and Olivia. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good almost afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us here. Apologies if you were expecting Ed Burstall. That unfortunately has had to be cancelled, so we're stepping in instead. But I hope you'll find this talk really interesting as we talk about one of the key topics that is impacting our industry and our work at the moment, and how we can kind of take the big ideas and the awareness that I feel is really already there, and turn it into tangible action. So I'm delighted to be joined by Gloria Sandrucci, who is the event director of Pure, and Rachel Can, who is a sustainability consultant with Circular and her platform Circular Earth. Thank you for joining me here. Rachel, do you want to tell us a bit more about the work that you do, what Circular Earth is?
Sure. So I've been in the industry as a designer and design manager for over 25 years. I moved into sustainability about 6 years ago and started a consultancy called Circular Earth, where we start to build with businesses and help them move on the journey in sustainability. I'm also founder of the Ecosystem Incubator, which is a platform that brings together all players in the system and start to have them work in collaboration, which is a whole new way of doing business. So, yeah.
Thank you. Look forward to hearing more about that. I didn't introduce myself. That's classic. I always do that. I'm too excited to speak to everybody else who's on the panel. I'm Olivia Pinnock. I'm a freelance fashion journalist and a lecturer at London College of Fashion. And I specialise in sustainability in my work. I've been writing, researching, talking about it for a really long time. And I'm going to be working more closely with Pure London to advise them on their sustainability strategy going forward, and how we can continue to build on this conversation, which leads me to Gloria. Why don't you tell us a bit about what Pure London's already been doing so far up until this point around sustainability for fashion?
Sure. We have introduced the Power of One campaign actually back in 2018, which was very popular because it was a campaign that really was designed as an initiative to support all the designers and brands and retailers as well that are in the fashion industry to make a change and drive for a better future. And then it was very popular at the time, but then unfortunately the COVID, the pandemic hit, and we had to stop. But right now we are picking up, and sustainability obviously is a very key topic. Each of every one of us actually plays a big role in what the future will look like, and we are a big supporter of this initiative, and we have trade registered the name of the Power of One campaign, and with yourself, Olivia, we are actually driving the future of the fashion industry and support all the designers and brands to make a change for the future.
And what, as you say, we're kind of a little bit on hiatus at the moment and going to be revving that up for next season. But what might people notice at the show today to help them navigate, their sustainability initiatives?
Absolutely. Well, we have invested quite a lot on the how to market the brands and the designers that are here today, to express what they are already doing and what sort of initiatives they are taking already to support this journey. And in the catalogue that every one of you can grab, you can see the SDG next to the brands that are actually sustainable. And moving forward, we have recently announced, actually we announced it yesterday, day one of the show, the launch of a dedicated area called Purely Sustainable for Autumn-Winter 2023 to really support the designers and brands into this journey.
Amazing. And Rachel, we're just kind of talking about the impact of the pandemic, maybe putting some things on hold, but also maybe really driving our kind of passion and the need for sustainability as well. Is that something that you've noticed a lot in your work?
definitely. I mean, I started the ecosystem incubator in the pandemic, and for me that was a time of people starting to come together to collaborate for change, and trying on a whole new way of kind of working in their business, because it for them started to become less about just what they were doing, but actually how could I work with this person over here and actually make a bigger impact together. So for me, I've seen people come out of this space of what we call competition and into a collaborative space, which I'm really excited about, because we can do so much more as a bigger entity than we can as one person or one brand waving our little flag, or coming out and trying to get a sustainable range into their business when sometimes the economy of scale isn't there for that. So
yeah, I think that ties in really nicely with the idea of the power of one and the messaging around that there is power in one action and one person taking change. There's even bigger power if we all act as one.
Absolutely. If everyone takes that step, even if it is a small step, but it's driving changing, and then obviously we create that community that will drive the changes moving forward, which is very important.
Absolutely, and I think we are a community here together. I hope that you're all really enjoying being back in person here. I know I am. Isn't it great to go and feel the clothes and meet face to face with your business partners and the people that you work with? I think we've all seen the power that can have as well. So tell us a bit more about how collaboration tangibly happens with the work that you do, Rachel.
Yeah, I mean, we work on a living systems principle where we come together and we start to work as one kind of forest in a way. I know that sounds a little bit woo-woo, but essentially what that means is that we can start to really focus down on our niches, but also on our wants and needs. How can we come together and collaborate, and what would that look like? So for instance, we come together with a bottom-up co-creation, where we might come together with artisans or growers, and they be a part of that brand journey, as opposed to being, oh, you're just my supplier and that's it. So they share percentages and co-create a brand with designers, with consultants, with garment techs. People who would traditionally be in a larger company can actually come and co-create their future, and it not be about just one CEO sort of taking all the margins, for instance.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to explore together. We're purely sustainable. We've, as Gloria said, we literally announced it yesterday. It's still in the very early stages, and we're really interested to hear from you as visitors of the show, as exhibitors at the show, of what you want to see. What are the challenges that you have? Like, how can we help you navigate that conversation? Gloria, do you want to?
Yes, and obviously to add on that, obviously we have already started investing a lot in the content that we bring to the show. We had even yesterday the sessions with Dana Thomas, and also moving forward, this is a kind of content that we will be sharing with you all throughout between now and the next show. So just to bring you on board on this journey that we can only be making all together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there were some really interesting things yesterday about, particularly around Gen Z and how they're choosing to shop, and how they're driven by their principles.
Yeah.
And I was particularly struck by the statistic that 64% of millennials and Gen Z are looking to shop secondhand. Before, when they're looking to buy something new, they're looking for vintage first. What do you think that means for businesses and brands and retailers and these things? What's the impact of that?
I think there's going to be much more innovation in terms of the circularity, how we gather our product and take it back into upcycling or circularizing into new product. I think there will be more conversations about new economics, or how we make the economics work for our brands and keep the responsibility of that item in throughout the system. So for me, it's very much there's a systems change that needs to happen, and that those jobs and opportunities can go into that circular function, that waste can become beautiful value.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not waste, it's a resource.
Yeah. And one person used the word sleeping beauties for dead stock, for instance, which I think makes it a bit more of a exciting prospect than kind of, stock that you just chuck in your warehouse or whatever. So.
Yeah, and I think some of these, these words around like new economics and new business models, things can sound a little bit scary in a way. I mean, Gloria, do you think the business case is still there, even if we're reevaluating all these things?
Well, absolutely, because what we as a show has the responsibility to actually reflect what is happening on the industry, but also to actually think on what the consumers' trends are, and if the Gen Z, the young people, are really buying and happy to spend more on garments that are actually more expensive because obviously the supply chain costs more, well, actually the retailers are also needs to embrace that. They need to provide what the consumers ultimately want, and we as a show, we have the responsibility to support that.
And Rachel, have you got any really good examples from the people that you're working with of some great sustainability initiatives happening?
Yeah, actually we're doing some really interesting industry work, and one of our biggest trees in the forest is waste to wear. So thinking about how we can utilize waste, not just from our industry in terms of dead stock, but how we can gather waste from other places and have that have a second life. And also kind of bringing in how we could do research and development into that, and really take on the sustainability points as values as well. Not just, okay, how can we make this economically work, but how can we kind of bring in other values to that? So I mean, it's all very much work in progress, and these things take a long time to build in terms of new ideas and functions and systems. But I'm seeing really great strides in utilizing different waste. These earrings, for instance, are made out of recycled inner tubes from the lovely Laura Szabo. So people and artisans who are really doing that kind of function in the background. It's so interesting.
And there are some really amazing case studies and examples happening. And again, I think through Purely Sustainable, that's something we want to highlight. Again, so that you, when you go away with your businesses, can have some good examples to learn from. Is that something we can expect?
But also, if we look at, we are at the trade show, so we can see carpet, we can see a lot of stands, but everything that we've got here today is going to be reused. All the stands are not just chucked away, but they will be used. They are built in modular blocks, in modular panels, just because that way they can be reused for other exhibitions or any other event. And the carpet as well, it will be shredded and then reused again. Also, if you have noticed, we've got some of our staff hostesses around wearing the Power of One campaign t-shirt, and that t-shirt is actually made of recycled plastic bottle. So here again, we've got the commitment, and we are also, so Pure London is one of the UK retail trade show run by Hive, and Hive as a business has got a big commitment towards sustainability and ESG. So we are driving, we're going back to driving the change and driving that community to make a step to a better future. But we as a business are definitely committed on to that.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we start by looking inwards and at what we can do. Where are we having impact that we can change? But I know we've talked about, but we also have this amazing platform in Pure, and how can we extend our impact further in order to affect change in the industry as well. So it'll be really exciting to see where that goes. And Rachel, do you think that, again, there's a lot of, we've been talking about this since 2018 at Pure,
Very long
and we've got these amazing case studies, but do you really think we're getting somewhere?
I've seen a big shift the last sort of 2-3 years towards it, at least at the start talking about it. And I think that's where everyone tries it on first. Try it on, talk about it. But what I'd invite each and every one of you, if you've got a brand, if you're a designer, consultant, whoever, to really try on what you could do in your business, even if it's just an incremental step, to step into that for sure. Because I was one of you for so many years. You know, I was part of brands that showed in Pure here. And yeah, that journey of kind of really being curious, getting into it, that you don't have to know everything at all to start off with. Go on and find out what's going on. Do your research, get really, really interested. And you can find ways of building it into your business without a doubt. And if you can't, speak to us.
And also in your personal life as well, because I think the pandemic has certainly accelerated and changed some of our behaviors, and really made us reflect on the impact that we have as individuals on the environment. I have seen that, you know, on a personal level, but also on the wider community, and that's why it's important to talk about this topic, because if we stick together, then we can make that change that is necessary for our planet.
Absolutely.
That's so true, and I think for retailers, they're learning and going on this journey, and it can be quite difficult when you're getting questions and feedback from customers who might know more than you, might know less than you, might know about the same as you. We're all kind of going on this journey. Yeah. How do you navigate that when your heart's in the right place to trying to make this change, but everyone's coming at you and going, is this greenwashing, and is that really enough? And how do we talk about it in a way that is the right way to talk about it?
Yeah, and that's another conversation. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just being in that constant learning journey. For me, it was like I had 6 years ago, or even before that, 15 years ago, when I started looking at sustainability and ethics. I didn't really know what to do with it when I started. I was a designer, just designing stuff for people, bigger companies or whatever, and I thought, who am I to do this, But actually I just started to really learn about everything, being really curious and really getting into it. So I think, but the conversation about how you share it is just make sure that you know everything about that supply chain, that you know physically and personally those people and systems, so you'll be able to share and showcase it as transparently as you can. Sometimes the sustainability journey changes as you go along, so being constantly in the curious sort of aspect is really interesting. It's like, okay, making sure that you're always being at the top of the intelligence that you can be,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that honesty around, we're not perfect. We're getting there. This is what we do know. If you have a question, I don't know the answer about it, I'm going to go find that out, rather than pretend I know the answer to it.
Yeah, and sometimes going and speaking to your customer base as well can bring some really great sparks of inspiration. That innovation can come not just from your one brain, but from the people who you're working with. Like, instead of seeing them as maybe, the designers or the functions, actually go and ask them, because actually they've seen it. They go to China, go to India. They're interested in that, so get involved with that as a business.
Yeah, and I think as well, coming back to that, like coming together and community and the power of one together. I think sometimes we can feel like we go back to our businesses and we get so overwhelmed with the workload, and it can all feel like a lot. But when we come together in a space like this, when we come to talks, when we go to workshops and all these kind of things, that can really kind of ignite the fire in your belly again. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, having these kind of more actionable forums, so instead of maybe us sitting here and go, yes, this is what sustainability is, actually gather everyone together and say, what could we actually do? What could we try on in our different businesses? Each business is completely different, needs a bespoke way, and this is what we do in our consultancy. Make sure that whatever we're applying in that business is bespoke and fit to that purpose, or to whatever it is they're doing.
And what do you think at the moment are the key concerns around sustainability? It's a huge umbrella term. It covers so many things. And like you say, every business is different. But what are you noticing are the things that people really want to tackle or really want to focus on right now?
circularity in a huge way. Many businesses I work with and consult with really, and they're usually small to medium-sized businesses, they really want to try on circularity. So very much that kind of conversation. Can I make that fabric circular? How do I add systems in to do this? Who can I connect with? So they get in that it's not just them that's going to do that, that maybe they can click in with repair services, with circular services. We've got some great people in our incubator who've been circularizing knitwear for 70 years. You know, the circularity isn't new. That's an industry that's going on for 200 years. You know, it was called shoddy back in the day. You know, so
that's amazing. It's quite interesting as well. This sort of, like looking backwards a little bit to, you know, kind of old ways of doing things, but it is new though as well at the same time, isn't it?
Completely. I mean, this new word that you'll hear is regenerative. So how do we actually make our circularity, looking at locality, looking at how we can actually circularize that, but not just circularize it, have it be in a constant, continuous loop. Can we put that back to nature? Could we mechanically recycle that so it would, you know, go 7, 8, 10 times, you know, rather than just one function? So there's a big push towards this new regenerative function and how we can look at things in different ways and go back to the past, because the past isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just that new function of it, how we work with that in each locality.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was something that Dana Thomas was talking about yesterday as well, like how do we give back? I think that ties in really nicely to the SDGs as well, about not just lowering impact, but actually having a positive impact. Do you think that's something that we can achieve?
If we all work together to make that change and that little step, definitely. And, you know, our planet really needs that. So, yes.
I'd
100%.
agree. I'd agree 100% in the collaboration bit as well, that we need to come out of being, this is my dance space and that is your dance space, and never the two shall mix. It's always been very competitive, right? So actually, let's start to dance together. Let's start to work together for future values.
Yeah, and how beautiful is it that we can, you know, do it now in person as well, and getting together, be on platforms that enable that dialogue of that community finally getting together again.
Yeah, I think it will breed a lot more innovation if we start coming together to answer some of these, what we call wicked problems. You know, how are we going to make circular function? How are we going to make systems and processes? It doesn't have to be the big guys that do that. We can all come together. There's enough of us here to actually start co-creating about 12, 20 different brands, you know, with all their great kind of functions that they've been and experience.
Yeah, and Rachel, I know you told me that you know, with Circular Earth, you are looking at the UN Sustainable Development Goals and particularly focusing on collaboration for the change. What does that goal mean to you?
To me, the partnerships for goals.
Partnerships for the goals, yeah.
Get
the right
yeah,
goal.
I mean, for me, that's like one of the most important parts, to come out of, and in our regenerative speak, come out of that competitive mindset and into collaboration, and partnerships for goals kind of encompasses that new way of thinking.
Yeah, I think if anyone isn't, I'm aware like some of you will be really familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals, some of you might have heard of it, and some of you might be sitting here going, what are these people talking about? But the Sustainable Development Goals are targets set up by the UN for particular things that they want to achieve for a better world. There is sort of a time frame on this to meet these things by 2030, and they cover a huge range. There's 17 goals in total, so they cover everything from preserving life in the oceans to tackling hunger to empowering women, all these things, and they're quite big things. It's sort of like, imagine a beautiful utopian world, like what does it look like? And that's almost what the 17 Sustainable Development Goals look like. But I'd really encourage any of you, if you haven't already, to go onto the UN Sustainable Development Goals website and go have a look at what the actual targets in there, because there are a lot of things in there which can relate very directly to fashion. So for example, obviously we've been talking about using ocean waste in order to create new materials that will help preserve life under the ocean. We can also, if we're switching towards organic fibers, that's going to improve health around the world. So health is another one of the goals, because that's going to put people in less hazardous working conditions and things like that. So do go have a look at those, and that's again why we've used the Sustainable Development Goals in the way that we're talking about sustainability at Pure. We're not here to say this is how you do sustainability and you have to do this in order to showcase at Pure. Again, every brand is going to have a different journey, but we want, the goal and the aim is to have every single exhibitor in here working towards at least one of those sustainable development goals, preferably more. And that's kind of what we're going to be working on going forward,
Yes,
isn't it?
absolutely. So definitely something that Purely Sustainable will be able to champion. Would be fantastic to have, like a pledge from the individual brands and designers to say, okay, this is my goal and this is how I am going to actually achieve that goal. And sometimes it could be just the little things, but like washing, for example, at low temperatures, washing less, obviously, buying less, and also making sure that what you buy is actually done for remain and stay. That will be the trends that we are actually seeing.
And so, Gloria, what would sort of be your advice or your next steps for anyone who's here and going, I'm aware of sustainability, I know I need to do something, or I'm already doing something but I want to be doing more? What would be your sort of suggestion to them at the show?
Well, first of all, have a look at what your business model is, what is the fabric that you're using, what is the target of retailers you're actually selling to, and actually what you can actually achieve. I think the most important thing is to set goals that are achievable and not something that are huge and scary, but really trying by little step to actually get to the end goal. So it's probably a little of an analysis of your business, and then just understanding what are the things that you can change to get to your goal.
Yeah, Rachel, what would your advice be?
It's a difficult one.
Yeah, I love to go big and really think in big whole systems perspectives, how everything interlocks together, how you could interlock with other people, collaborate, build with that. But also, the other thing is to be able to then go and focus on one thing that you can make the change on straight away as well. But know that checking out, is that change useful? Is there going to be any unintended consequences of that change? That's a really big one. So when you're looking at how you're doing it, okay, you could say, let's change over to this fabric. What is the impact of moving to that fabric in comparison to the other one? Is that better? And really going in deep and finding out with that tiny thing what it is, because those building blocks are going to build your business with integrity going forwards, and that's what we stand for in Circular Earth and the Ecosystem Incubator.
And I think my tip would be have a look in the catalogue and find the brands who are here who have an SDG badge next to them, and go and ask them questions, because that SDG badge is going to mean different things to different exhibitors. So go and ask them about it, start a conversation with them around it to find out a bit more about that. And secondly, a bit of a personal pledge. As I said, I'm going to be working closely with Pure on Purely Sustainable. And while I'm here, I really want to hear from all of you, what are your ideas, what are your problems, what are your challenges, what do you think Pure can do for you with the new Purely Sustainable initiative? So please do come flag me down and say hi. I'm also doing some reports on the content, so you'll mostly find me sat on the bench where you are right now. But if you see me there and you have something you want to say, please come say hi or come see Gloria and speak to us about how we, as a power of one, can come together and really, really start to take action on something that is so important that we address. So thank you very much for sitting here and listening to us today. Thank you very much to Rachel and Gloria for joining us, and we hope you have a very lovely rest of the show.
Thank you.